Hello, I'm Kara O'Donnell, and this is County Board Wrap-Up, where each month we take that in-depth look at the actions the County Board takes that affect us all here in Arlington County. Joining me today to discuss those key actions the board took at its March meeting are County Board Chair Matt DeFerranti and Board Member Takis Karantonis. Thank you both for being here today. We're going to start as we have, well, every month for the last several, and that is with the pandemic, specifically with the county's COVID-19 relief and vaccination efforts. Matt, I'm going to start with you. Give us an update. Where do things stand right now with the county's vaccination efforts?
Well, Kara, we have made progress over the last couple of weeks that is starting that ramp up that we have so long anticipated. And we're continuing to work. There are a couple of things. First, our number of doses went up significantly from around 5,000, give or take, to over 8,000, give or take. And so we're able to help more people this past week. We worked through some of the employee groups while we're also serving those 65 and older and those 16 to 64 with underlying medical conditions. So that's progress. There's also we're continuing to work through a number of sites, Lubber Run, Walter Reed, but we also have made progress over the past week and over the past month on equitable distribution of doses, which is a shared priority of our community and the board, as well as our county manager and staff. So we've moved forward on the partnership with Arlington Free Clinic, and we have a partnership with Neighborhood Health that is helping us get doses out to those who most need it in terms of economically and in terms of the parts of the county where we've seen the most cases. So there's significant work left to do for sure, and we're eager to get to that, but we're starting to see more and more doses with first doses above 20% of Arlingtonians, and we're continuing to work at it. So progress, not done, working on equity for sure. So that's a summary in part.
Let's continue that equity conversation a little bit. You mentioned the work with the Arlington Free Clinic and Neighborhood Health to really reach those uninsured, underinsured populations. But let's talk, I know, Takis, I've seen you and Matt, both of you out at some of the pre-registration pop-ups that we've been working on with our complete vaccination committee. For those who may not be aware of some of those efforts, can both of you give kind of a little bit of a intro as to what those efforts are and how they're going so far?
Takis, why don't you start? We both love going to these pop-up events because it's actually a sense that you're helping individuals one by one. And so, Takis, you start. I know I'll have a piece to add too.
And Mr. Chair, this is really very important. I have to add to your introduction, previous introduction. This is, as Kara has reminded us just a little while ago, this is a full year of doing these board wrap-ups and doing that in a virtual environment. So this says a lot. This is has been a very long year for our community, for everybody. And as you can imagine, those who are most vulnerable and are most exposed have been suffering the most. So going into more than a couple of dozen of pop-ups, and I have to say, the Complete Vaccination Committee has been absolutely critical to that effort because these are our ambassadors across the entire county in all hard-to-reach communities. It's not only the underinsured or infra-insured. This is a vast number of Arlingtonians who just doesn't have access for whatever reason to the main systems of registering people, putting them in line, and making sure that they get their vaccine as soon as possible. So it's absolutely critical that we have been, all our colleagues have been out there individually registering Arlingtonians one after the other, practically a door-to-door effort, and that has to continue, and it will be continuing. At the same time, I think also that we're ramping up also our testing efforts. I mean, we were very happy to see that now we can test with a mobile unit that will be going around and make sure that we get everybody tested and protected if necessary, and that we identify outbreaks as soon as possible where they may occur. The schools are opening. Life, is just pressing to get back to normal. But we have, and I believe, Mr. Chair, you mentioned that there is a presence of mutant variants. We have seen in the reports of our staff, of the director of our Department of Health of the district, Dr. Varghese, that the numbers of COVID incidents, despite the inoculation of actually more than 10% of the population right now, are still relatively high. The incidents, we keep the curve down, but we have still a long way to go. And equity is not only justice, it's also very good policy when it comes to epidemiology.
Sure. I'll just add really quickly, if you look at our positivity rate, it stayed under 5%, but I think our viewers will know that we have to keep we have over 20% with first doses, and we have around 10% fully vaccinated. So it's, in some regards, it's a little bit of a race. We want to vaccinate as many as we can, and we want everybody to just help us with 6 weeks, 8 weeks more of being really disciplined. It may be longer than that, but we're going to ramp up vaccines. And if we do, we'll see that positivity rate go down, and we'll beat this long year of response to the virus as a county, and also equitably with our populations that haven't done as well in terms of case numbers. So progress on COVID, much more to do.
And we are, as a community, all together in this. That's very, very important to stress. That is washing your hands, putting on your mask, keeping social distancing. Still, even if the spring blooms around you like the biggest celebration, we have to still, keep the fort. We will beat this.
Absolutely. And on that note, I know both of you have spent some time touring the various vaccination clinics here in Arlington County. What are you hearing from residents and employees that you've talked to who are getting their first dose, getting their second dose? I know I've spent some time in the clinics as well, so I know what I've heard, but I'd like to hear from you. What are you hearing from some of your constituents about their feelings about getting the vaccine?
Well, sure. Yesterday, I was at a pop-up in the Barcroft Apartments, and one person came up and he mentioned how thrilled he was and how he's sharing it with his family. And then he walked away, and 10 minutes later came back with a friend who he said he was worried about because the friend had some underlying health conditions and hadn't yet pre-registered. So he brought his friend back. And it was pretty inspiring because his friend said, look, I know I need to do this, and I'm thrilled to get to pre-register because I've been worried about this for a long time. So people have been upbeat, positive. I am not seeing so much vaccine hesitancy in Arlington. What I see instead is people not knowing exactly how to get to pre-register. And one big step we've taken this week is worked on a common form that could be used that makes it streamlines it a little bit so that Arlington Free Clinic, Neighborhood Health, Arlington County are all using something that is as easy as it can be while getting the key information to use. So pop-ups have been good, and I can tell you, I know it's true for you, Takis, they're energizing. So I don't know what your experience has been with your most recent pop-ups. You've been everywhere. I mean, I look at social media and then I'm like, he's in every part of the county. What's your experience?
Yeah. I've been hearing a lot, but what's the best is what I've been seeing: smiling faces, relief. And if I had to really highlight one thing, is I had to register people. I mean, it happened to register people who actually had COVID before. And it's not so unusual to bump on individuals who went through that. And, in a very low voice, I said, something, I've had this, and it is horrible. And these are personal stories. And this is it's twice the relief when, we say, okay, we will get you in the queue. We get more vaccine supply in. It won't take so long. Or neighborhood health is promising actually delivering, because it's a cyclical system. They sign up as many people they have supply for, and they say in 1 week you will be there, and entire families going into that. This is really a very, very good thing. And I have to say again, the volunteers and the staff, Cara here included, who have been manning the posts and womaning the posts. Week after week, they deserve the highest respect for their dedication. These are not easy logistics, whether it's a pop-up or a huge 1,500, 2,000 people in a day effort. This is, at the end, the work of individuals that are very dedicated and feel very strong about what they do. And I thank them for that, and I believe the entire board does.
And I'm just to echo what you said there, Takas, from my own experiences working in some of the vaccination clinics, those volunteers especially, we have everything from retired school nurses to nursing students to our fire and EMS and all kinds of folks who are volunteering their time to help with this vaccination effort because they just feel it's the right thing for them to be doing right now. And they are a critical part of the vaccination effort here in Arlington County. So I will echo that, and a hats off to all of them. Well, on that note, of course, the vaccination effort was certainly not the only priority for the board this month. Another involves a major redevelopment in the courthouse neighborhood. Let's talk a little bit about the landmark block in Courthouse Square. For those not aware, can you explain exactly where this block is and what this redevelopment plan is all about?
Sure. This is a project that is close to the county courthouse office buildings and the courthouse metro. And so you may know it as Summers, formerly Cozy, the restaurant, the quick food restaurant. And there's a couple of other small low-rise buildings there. And it's going to be replaced with a project that is transportation related and transportation friendly development, because it's literally walkable within, perhaps 50 yards or 100 yards of the courthouse metro station. So it's a project with significant investments in our courthouse area. There's going to be a shared street that's going to be redone. That's one of the community benefits. There's affordable housing units on site. It's an apartment building that will be 420 units, 423 units, significant additional housing, and also environmentally and sustainably done. So we know that already we know that Metro has been such a key part of Arlington's development, and this is a good project right next to it that also includes another community benefit of an investment for the future Courthouse Square that is currently the parking lot, and we're planning on doing some upgrades and some pieces there. So it's a great project, and part of recovery for Arlington is continuing to have that growth and doing that growth in a smart way. So we had broad community consensus on this project, and I know that you also supported it, Takas, and there's plenty of other elements that I'm sure you'll want to touch on too.
Well, this is a project that we really wanted. This is how we planned that. This is the first residential assets, let's say, in the context of the Courthouse Square, which will be Arlington's center place. This is right in front of Arlington County headquarters, across from the courthouse. But all in all, the surrounding buildings until now haven't been residential. This is the first residential building that really sets the the tone for the future square, which we really have been, the entire community has been planning with a lot of focus to deliver that. You know, we all accept that having a big parking lot in the middle of our, you know, government place is not really the best use of this land. We really want to give it back to Arlingtonians and to make it a public space. This building contributes to that. It also has a, in my opinion, modest but existent and not easily to get in a transportation corridor, a component of our affordable housing. There are 8 units there. Half of them will be 2-bedroom. This is a very hot area to build and to construct in Arlington. We're very happy to see that going forward. We're very happy to see also the promenade that is an entire street, the Yulee Street, being transformed from a regular traffic street for available for vehicle traffic to be a pedestrian asset where people will be enjoying and stroll and very hopefully soon, have the ability to actually cross through a completely new type of street, shared street, which is a type of street that will be focused on the pedestrian and cyclist experience. That is not mainly built for cars, where cars will have to share the use with pedestrian and cyclists and actually respect the pedestrian and the cyclist first, because this is the transition to the new public square. So I believe that this has been a very nice concentrated effort. There is also a component of historic preservation. The facades of 2 buildings now on 2 diametrally opposed corners of the new building will be there. They will remind us of how Courthouse was, and they will be there to maintain a little bit of a sense of period and the idea of the soul of Arlington that we want to preserve at the same time as we build the new assets there.
And kind of look into both of your crystal balls, as it were, and give me a sense of what lies ahead. What is this overall vision of what we all want Courthouse Square to look like when all of this redevelopment is completed?
Sure. I think both of us have a sense that you can hear from Takis's description, the planning piece to his perspective. And so I know you'll have pieces to add, but all of us have this idea that currently where the flagpole is in front of the courthouse, there's a little gathering spot, but it's not quite as much nature infused, we talk about biophilic principles. We now all know now that getting outside and away from our Zoom or Microsoft Teams inspires us. And so there ought to be a gathering place where many Arlingtonians can come, and it's kind of a public square, not done necessarily the way public squares sort of were historically, but done in an updated way. And that's the concept. As we looked at the courthouse, the sector plan that was written a few years ago, that's what we're thinking. And all of the details aren't worked out, but the vision in the sector plan is for a larger public space with additional area for we would love some trees and grass. That's the start of the idea, in a place that is sustainable, but you can also gather as a community in slightly larger numbers. So that's my sense. Takis, I outed you as the planner.
As a citizen, it's the place where we celebrate our ownership of the public space. This is where trees and grass and playgrounds and all these functions will be possible. Today, it's absolutely not possible. This is a surface parking lot. This is asphalt and cars parked. There is nothing to do there other than escape it the fast as you can, because it's an inhospitable place. This will be a hospitable place. This will be one of Arlington's best, living rooms. This is where people will enjoy to linger around, to stay around, to play, to meet others, to enjoy their fantastic farmers market in a far more friendly and purpose-designed way. We have seen, we are in a renaissance of Arlington embracing its public spaces. We discussed about the Met Park. Look at this leap forward in design. We're discussing right now the HQ, public spaces that are in emergence. We are discussing in 22202 even more about that. All across the county, the board is looking at new ideas and focus on delivering multi-purpose civic quality in how we will be using and making this public space available. And this is a very big step forward, what has begun with the construction of a very big building and the additional 400 plus households right on at the edge of that.
Okay. Arlington's living room. I like that. That has a good ring to it. We're going to keep
We
that.
have several ones for all the places in Arlington, but this will be one of the, we will have a lot of civic pride invested there.
All right. Well, on that note, we will take a short break. When we come back, we're going to discuss a series of projects in the Crystal City area that will make it easier to get around and provide some exciting new access to Reagan National Airport. Stay with us. Welcome back to County Board Wrap Up and our discussion today with County Board Chair Matt DeFerranti, as well as Board Member Takis Karantonis, about some of the key decisions the board made at its March meeting. Now, of course, in addition to Courthouse Square, which we discussed in our last segment, some new projects around Crystal City were also hot topics. Let's talk first about the DCA Crystal City Connector. Explain the vision for this project to me.
Sure. Well, I'll start. This is a project that is very exciting, and you take a look at the vision and the picture of a walkway from Crystal City directly to the airport. I think one of the first these type projects in the nation. It's going to be exciting to get the chance to do sustainability and be outside, just rolling your suitcase straight into the airport. And so this is an exciting way to help continue the growth in Crystal City and really do it in a way that is pedestrian and cycle friendly. And so it's a project that we're all very excited about. It went forward. We consented to this as part of our agenda this past board meeting, and we're all thrilled with it. And I know one of those is certainly you, Takis.
Yes, indeed. It is something to be able to say, yes, in Arlington, Virginia, we really have a walkable airport, an airport that you can actually access by just going from Crystal Drive, your hotel, maybe in the new National Landing area. You can actually walk over to the airport directly. It's not just, but then the airport is on Metro. The airport is on a very nice bicycle trail. The airport is now walkable, and this connector will add amazing, an amazing asset for National Landing, and I believe it's more than warranted that all stakeholders are looking very with optimism to get this project in a way. It's also something that connects the core of National Landing, the high density core on this metro and transportation corridor, and Arlington's one of Arlington's main economic engines, with a natural asset which is between the airport and National Landing, which is the Mount Vernon Trail and the river, Arlington's Riviera, the river banks. And I believe that this is to not only to the benefit of the passengers, but also to the common citizen who can simply stroll over from Crystal Drive and get down into the green very, very easily. So I think there are many qualities that are converging into this project, and I'm really very excited to see going forward.
Awesome. I can tell you,
And the
we
best
were
thing
talking in
about
break
that
it
is,
just looks cool too.
and the best things about that is that thankfully federal funding and non-taxpayer, non-Arlington taxpayer funding will be significantly supporting the costs for this significant and iconic infrastructure. Think also about the passenger who comes out from an airport and the first thing they will think, where is my taxi, or where can I find transportation? And all of a sudden they will see a fantastic passage to the hotel across. And they can walk.
Say you don't need to wait for a shuttle bus or a taxi or what have you.
Yeah.
You can just walk to your hotel.
Yeah.
I know I've experienced that in Toronto when I've flown into Toronto City Airport back in the day when we traveled. And that was something that was always very appealing, and it's going to be very exciting for folks coming into Reagan National Airport who may be visiting and staying at a hotel in Crystal City or in the Greater National Landing, but also that for our residents, that this really kind of brings up the goal of the overall sector plan and to make the Crystal City and the entire National Landing neighborhood a more vibrant, accessible hub of transportation. What will that mean for the county overall?
Well, I think that this is the economic benefits of a place you want to spend time in and visit. We've seen over the past year that one of Arlington's great pieces of our businesses and our tax revenue to fund our schools and affordable housing and sustainability, it has been our hotels. And this past year, we have had a significant drop in our hotel revenue. Hotels and this sort of a place where visitors want to spend time is a big economic driver that can help the balance between residential property taxes and commercial come back to that historic 50-50 balance. And so that's a key piece to this project. And actually also we took action, maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit, we took action on a water park in Crystal City. And I know I have biked through that water park when you come up from the Mount Vernon Trail. It's along Crystal Drive, and it's a great space, but the actual tunnel underneath needs sprucing up. That'll happen in time. But as you come into Crystal City, the space coming up the trail to Crystal Drive needed some refreshing, revitalization, and to be more bike and pedestrian friendly. And so that's the step we took. And so if you think about the connector to the airport and also this refreshed water park, it's really the next generation. We had Crystal City in the 80s and 70s as a place where we had a lot of federal entities. We still value that, but this is part of becoming more dynamic, and that place as an attraction, that place building, is a key piece of both the connector and the water park. And so I know, Takas, Wood and Hard, your enthusiasm for the water park was a key piece to it. And there was a story behind this water park getting done. So Takas, I don't know if you...
And I couldn't say that better. I believe that maybe the bottom line here is that County Board, all stakeholders, the business improvement district, the business community, the civic community, all together, what we have in common, what is our common goal, is to make Arlington again the place of choice. You, Cara, said that you went out from your airport somewhere and in Canada, and then you were pleased to walk into the urban setting, like it was a city airport in this case. So we have a city airport where today there is no real, the passenger, and there are millions of them, like 20 million. After COVID, hopefully again, they have a choice. They can jump into any transportation model that is absolutely available to them and go everywhere in the region relatively easily. We want to make it more easy and more attractive to choose to stay in Arlington. We want them to just walk over and be in a place that will beat everybody else. This will be their first choice. And at the same time, we are delivering back. We are rebuilding civic quality the quality of the built environment back for our own community. Our trails will be better connected. There are accesses to new transportation models like the VRE station that is going to be developed as well very soon in the same place. The amenities that this park slash square will have, the water park will have. There are so many positive investments there that work for both, for our visitors, for our residents, for the businesses that are there, that will come there, and it puts us in the map as a place that really cares about this. And the input from our community has improved the place big time to everybody's satisfaction. I can tell you, as an economist, I would always say, the input from our community has actually stimulated additional investment in the public asset, and that's a great story to say.
That's a great, I'm so glad you mentioned that point, because we've been having a conversation with seeing the positives of the future, some vision, our clear excitement. But this project actually came before us a few months ago and it wasn't ready. We had great input from our residents, and we changed for safety reasons. We changed the way this water park and this sort of square area is going to be. And so I think you make a good point that while we're looking towards the future, we got to keep our feet grounded. And I think that the end water park was a much better project because we paused, listened, and changed what we were doing.
All right. Perfect example of how that community input really makes something better for everyone. Well, on that note, we will take one more quick break. And when we come back, we're going to take a look at a few board actions that focus on flood resiliency and stormwater infrastructure in the face of climate change. We'll be right back. Welcome back to County Board Wrap Up. I'm Kara O'Donnell, your host, and this is our look at some of the key actions the board took over the past month. We are back once again with Board Chair Matt DeFerranti and Board Member Takis Karantonis. Now, Arlington revised its approach to stormwater management in the wake of the 2019 July storm event that caused pretty devastating losses to both residential and business properties, and that caused some reprioritization of some projects. Now, next month, when the board adopts its fiscal year 2022 budget, the board will also vote on whether to increase the stormwater tax to help pay for some of those large-scale stormwater infrastructure and maintenance projects. And some of those items were also important topics at this March meeting. So first, Takis, I will start with you. Let's talk generally. How is the county really innovating to improve some of that stormwater infrastructure?
We're first accelerating our investment and trying to work with partners. So, for example, for Mile we'll work with the city of Alexandria. But now we have another very interesting collaboration with the Arlington Public School System. At the Reed School, we are going to build a vault, a cistern, basically a very big vault that will take a while to build, but then when we will have it, we will have a buffer for 540 and a little bit more than that, 1,000 cubic feet of stormwater, so that it is when we have these absolutely ferocious precipitation events that climate crisis are just going to throw in our way, and we will have 10-year storms every a couple of times a year, so that we will have a buffer where all this water will be stored before it is released slowly down the water sedge, so that it allows us to manage that flow far better. And it will deliver the neighborhoods, especially there, which is really next door to Westover, to the Westover neighborhood that has suffered absolutely devastating, the devastating impact of the July 2019 event. So this will be a safeguard. We will be able to manage that flow and to manage these volumes of water far more efficiently. For that, we have to invest. And as a matter of fact, also in the CIP, there is a 10-year investment plan of almost $190 million that is there. And there is also progressive thinking of how best to finance that, of how best to apportion the contribution that individual property owners and businesses have to provide to this. And of course, our engineering is getting better and better and more focused into solutions, both engineering solutions as well as changing other parameters, like, for example, we're reducing the imperviousness of our surfaces, making sure that we understand better how, the watersheds in Arlington work. So we dedicated a lot of time into that. I'm very excited for the Reed School Vault. Going forward, this will provide significant relief to begin with. The dredging project along 4 Mile Run is also, it was in the consent agenda. It is a significant investment in one of our major watersheds here in the region, and not only Arlington, and a common investment area for us in the city of Alexandria. Very exciting to see them going forward.
What does it mean to have some of these partnerships with entities that you wouldn't necessarily think of for something like stormwater and flood resiliency? How is that assisting our efforts in improving the conditions here in the county?
Well, I think it's part of, we had an opportunity to innovate at the Reed School, and that partnership with Arlington Public Schools is going to address a problem that we, as Taka said, we all saw those pictures of, and I went in the homes, I think Takas did as well. You went into the homes of people in the Westover community, as just one example, Bluemont as well, we responded by changing and accelerating the capital investment in that Reed School project. And we had our engineers talking with Arlington Public Schools leadership and their engineers, and we decided it was important to just take this opportunity underneath the field there at the Reed School to help protect one of our watersheds, the Tennyson Run watershed, that has been a big source of concern. So I think that's a great partnership with the city of Alexandria is also key. You started this segment, Kara, by talking about the stormwater changes, our overall strategy. And I think it's important to think back to July of 2019 and the urgency with which we felt we had to increase our resiliency. We can't prevent every flood, but we can increase the protection so that more and more of our residents are not, their homes aren't being ripped through by flooding. And so we're going to be more resilient. And it's an update to a strategy that we started a while back. And it actually serves our whole community, because 4 Mile Run, not everybody knows this, but in 1972, we had a big hurricane that sat, and South Arlington then, that part of Arlington was underwater. So this dredging is updating that approach. This vault is part of it. And we also took a couple of other steps, one big other step, to address one of our other watersheds. So I think we've been innovative at the Reed School. We've been responsible with the dredging piece. And we also had another project come up that was at Donaldson Run. And that was not easy. And we worked through that. This is an example where the whole board didn't agree, which is fine, but we did so thoughtfully, and we did so understanding and listening to the input we had from the community. So that's a third piece of our overall resiliency and flood responding strategy that came just out of this board meeting.
It was a very hot topic. And of course, the board also approved 3 neighborhood conservation projects that also had involvement with stormwater management. We had Ashton Heights, Dominion Hills, and Glen Carlin. So what are some of the highlights of these projects? Obviously, not as extreme in nature, but all of these things help to improve Arlington's flood resiliency, correct?
Well, I think, Takas, you want to talk, you were involved, and I think it's different levels, right? We need to work at the at the a very narrow neighborhood level, all the way up to the larger projects. But go ahead, Doc.
Absolutely, and in every single time we are one of the great aspects of being collaborative, whether this is with another jurisdiction or with another part of Arlington, with the APS, for example, or with the neighborhood associations and the neighborhood conservation program. These are places where this collaboration happens, and we can make progress by taking advantage of opportunities and streamlining investment in what is really important. Flood resiliency, stormwater management are extremely important priorities right now for the board, for the community, for everybody involved. But then there are other things like, for example, sidewalks and appropriate facilities and traffic calming and management. So all these things flow together in improving our neighborhoods. So, for example, in North Oakland Street, this is a street full of kids, as our residents told us, and we visited that and we saw that, and it doesn't have any sidewalks. So now it will have at least one sidewalk. It will be a completely nicely produced one according to modern standards that will accommodate kids and seniors and people with strollers and people on wheelchairs, and that will increase and elevate the feeling and the civic quality of this neighborhood significantly, which is the whole purpose of the neighborhood conservation program, which we are still continuing and will be continuing with all these investments in collaboration with everybody involved.
And I think that's well said, describing there's a small spring garden stormwater piece at the North Oakland project.
Yes.
And so you covered that well. I do think there was a lot of discussion of the Donaldson Run tributary B, and I just think that it's important to share that we learned from the conversation that, and we all agree there are steps on impervious cover countywide that we need to take. The climate is changing, and there was significant discussion on Donaldson Run. I think the board didn't end up agreeing with all those who spoke, but we did hear and listen deeply to the concerns, and I think that will be productive in the years to come as we continue to adapt our resiliency strategies. So I wanted to be that honest, that not all agreement on Donaldson Run, and a significant project, we will lose some trees, and that is a fair concern. I ended up supporting, and others perhaps did, because it's a difficult calculus, and we're looking at a lot of water that's coming down that tributary. So, I think that's just a note to reinforce with all those listening that we may not have agreed with every one of your positions, but we heard and listened deeply, I believe, to the concerns you raised.
Absolutely. And actually, I think that there is a huge agreement on one thing. We will never leave a good disagreement go to waste. We all will learn from that. We'll all will grow into that. That's not only your board, it's also your staff, it's the neighborhoods that were involved, the civic activists, the scientists that were involved. We all go out from a deliberative process enriched, wiser, and there will be the next project. Well, we will start at the even better position, and we'll be able to deliver even better for the people in Arlington.
Well, I think that positive outlook right there, Takis, is a perfect note on which to end. So that will bring us to the end of another county board wrap up. Matt, Takis, thank you both for joining us today to discuss the board's decisions this month, and of course, how those decisions affect all of us as Arlingtonians. And thank you for joining us today. We hope you will join us again next month, when of course we will be examining the board's adoption of the fiscal year 2022 operating budget, including the board's decision on the real estate tax rate for 2021, and of course, all of the other decisions the board makes at its April meeting. We'll see you then.